Floyd Mayweather is finally speaking out after a court reportedly ordered him to pay over $1 million in child support, tied to a child he allegedly had with a woman connected to his Las Vegas strip club. And now, the more details coming out, the worse this whole situation seems to be getting for Floyd.
Let me break it down.
In March 2026, a judge legally declared Floyd Mayweather, now 49 years old, the father of a 4-year-old girl named Price Moorhead, with the judge writing, "The court finds that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is the father of Price Moorhead." According to court documents obtained by TMZ Sports, read that again, a 4-year-old child, meaning this little girl has been alive for 4 years, and it took a court order for Floyd to be put on record as her father. Floyd was ordered to pay $32,850 a month in child support, in addition to $933.50 in back support. That's nearly $1 million that built up while Floyd was, apparently, not paying. The internet rounded it to $1 million. The court docs say $933.50. What matters is what that number represents. Years of a child going without financial support from a father worth hundreds of millions of dollars. At least that's what he's always claimed. The latest baby marks Mayweather's 5th child. He already has 4 kids from previous relationships, 3 with his late ex-partner Josie Harris, and 1, his eldest daughter Ayanna, with Melissa Brim. Now there's a 5th, a 4th-born girl named Price Moorhead. The internet could not let that name go. The child's name is literally Price, named after what the internet started speculating Paige Moorhead wanted from Floyd all along. But beyond the name, beyond the number, beyond the viral moment, the actual story here is about what led to this court order, how Floyd handled it, and what it reveals about where the man who called himself Money actually stands right now. The courts got involved back in June 2023, when the mother, Paige Moorhead, asked a Nevada judge to legally declare Mayweather the father of the 18-month-old child who was born in December 2021. That filing was in 2023. The child was born in December 2021. So Paige waited roughly 18 months before taking it to court. Either she was giving Floyd time to do the right thing privately, or things broke down badly enough that going legal became the only option. Either way, by the time she walked into that Nevada courtroom in June 2023, the relationship was already in ruins. And according to Paige, Floyd was the one who ended it. Moorhead says she was in a long-term intimate relationship with Mayweather that lasted 8 years, until she claims he broke up with her when he found out she was pregnant in April 2021. 8 years. This was not a one-night situation. According to Paige Moorhead, she and Floyd Mayweather were together for 8 full years. That's not a fling, that's a relationship. And her account says the moment she got pregnant, Floyd walked. Paige claims Floyd pressured her to get an abortion and ultimately fired her, even though she'd worked at his girl collection club for 4 years. So not only did he allegedly push her toward an abortion, but he also fired her from the club where she'd been working for 4 years. That detail changes the whole texture of this story. This wasn't just a breakup. According to Paige, she lost her relationship and her job at the same time, both courtesy of the same man. And Floyd's response to all of this? To the paternity petition, to the court summons, to the DNA test order? Despite being served twice and ultimately ordered to take a DNA test, Mayweather blew off the directive before the judge issued a default judgment declaring him the father. A default judgment, meaning Floyd didn't show up, didn't respond, didn't contest. In legal terms, when you don't respond, the court moves without you. And in this case, it moved against Floyd completely. He was declared the father not because of a DNA test confirming it, but because he refused to participate in the process. For a man who managed every detail of his ring career with surgical precision, managing opponents, managing press, managing contracts, he walked into this one without so much as a lawyer response. Per the court, Floyd has only paid about $151, zero of what he owes. So the judge ruled Paige can place a lien worth up to $2 million on property owned by Mayweather in California, helping ensure she gets the money for the child. A $2 million lien on his California property. The court essentially looked at Floyd's payment history. $151, zero out of nearly $1 million owed, and decided that waiting for Floyd to pay voluntarily was not a strategy. So they went after the property directly. This is where the story begins to take on a whole different weight, because this isn't just about one child support case. This is one piece of a much larger picture that has been assembling itself around Floyd Mayweather for the better part of 2 years. A picture that looks nothing like the stacks of cash and luxury cars he's been flashing for decades. To understand why this case landed the way it did, you have to understand who Paige Moorhead is and what she says her life with Floyd actually looked like. Moorhead says she was in a long-term, intimate relationship with Mayweather that lasted 8 years, until she claims he broke up with her when he found out she was pregnant in April 2021. 8 years. In anyone's world, that is a significant portion of your adult life. Paige Moorhead was not some stranger who crossed paths with Floyd once. By her own account, she was embedded in his world for nearly a decade, and for a chunk of that time, she was working inside the heart of that world. Paige claims Floyd pressured her to get an abortion and ultimately fired her, even though she'd worked at his Girl Collection Club for 4 years. 4 years at Girl Collection. The club she worked at was owned by the man she was in a relationship with. That creates a power dynamic that is almost impossible to overstate. When your employer and your partner are the same person, and that person decides the relationship is over, you don't just lose a boyfriend. You lose your income, your workplace, your community, all at once. The courts got involved in June 2023 when Paige Moorhead asked a Nevada judge to legally declare Mayweather the father of the 18-month-old child, who was born in December 2021. She waited from December 2021, when Price was born, until June 2023. That's 18 months. There's a version of that timeline where she was hoping Floyd would step up without the courts. There's another version where she was building her case. Either way, by the summer of 2023, it went official. The name of the child, Price Moorhead, became its own cultural moment. The second this story broke, the internet connected the dots immediately. Paige named her daughter Price Moorhead. Some read that as calculated. Others read it as a mother reclaiming her narrative in real time. What's undeniable is that it worked. The name alone made this story spread faster than almost any detail in the actual legal filings. The internet will do that. But let's stay on the facts. Paige Moorhead says she gave 8 years of her life to a man who, when she got pregnant, did the opposite of stepping up. He allegedly pressured her to terminate the pregnancy, fired her from her job, and then spent years ignoring a court process designed to establish basic legal responsibility for the child they share. Despite being served twice and ultimately ordered to take a DNA test, Mayweather blew off the directive before the judge issued the default judgment declaring him the father. Being served twice is not a miscommunication. The first time, fine. Maybe there's a debate about whether something was properly delivered, though that's a stretch when you're one of the most recognizable athletes on the planet. But the second time, and the DNA test order on top of that, Floyd's non-response was a choice, and the court treated it as such. There's a particular kind of strategy, or at least a particular kind of attitude, in ignoring a paternity case entirely. Some read it as arrogance. Others read it as calculated delay. But in this case, it backfired in a way that was entirely foreseeable. Because when you don't respond, the court doesn't pause and wait. It rules. And it ruled against Floyd. The default judgment didn't just declare him the father. It stacked the financial consequences in a way that Floyd now has no legal ground to contest. Without first dealing with the accumulated total, he was ordered to pay $32,850 a month in child support, plus $933.50 in back support. And crucially, since Floyd had only paid about $151.00 of what he owes, the judge ruled Paige can place a lien worth up to $2 million on his California property. That lien is the mechanism that makes this concrete. Without it, Paige has a judgment, which is one thing, but Floyd could potentially drag enforcement out for years. The lien on the California property changes the calculus entirely. His real estate is now collateral, and that real estate, as we're about to get into, is something Floyd can no longer simply treat as untouchable. Mayweather has also been sued by exotic dancers, alleging he did not pay them appropriate wages at the Girl Collection strip club and slapped one dancer when she raised concerns about pay. That lawsuit, a separate matter, has been winding its way through the courts. But what it tells you in combination with Paige Moorhead's account is that the environment inside Girl Collection was one where worker grievances, financial and otherwise, were consistently dismissed or worse. The picture Paige Moorhead's legal case paints is one where Floyd's world operated by rules he made up and enforced on the people around him. When one of those people became pregnant, he allegedly tried to make the problem go away. When it didn't go away, he ignored the legal process. And when the legal process moved anyway, he ended up on the wrong side of a judgment that is now reaching into his property. The question is whether Floyd can actually afford to settle this, because the picture of his finances in 2026 suggests the answer is far less certain than it would have been even 5 years ago. The strip club at the center of this story, Girl Collection, is not just a backdrop, it is the engine of one of the most turbulent chapters of Floyd Mayweather's post-retirement life, and the trouble it has attracted goes far beyond one child support case. The two women who filed the class action lawsuit against Floyd allege they were misclassified as independent contractors when they worked as dancers at Girl Collection, a club near Sahara Avenue and Sammy Davis Jr. Drive. The misclassification argument is a common one in the strip club industry, but the specific allegations attached to Girl Collection go considerably further than just an employment classification dispute. Girl Collection had rules over how the dancers performed, including dress codes, stage rotations, and rules for how much they could receive. For private dances and VIP sessions, the plaintiffs argued that level of control over their work, down to the rotations, the dress code, the money they were allowed to earn, is entirely inconsistent with being classified as independent contractors. That distinction matters legally and financially. Contractors don't get minimum wage protections or overtime. Employees do. The lawsuit alleges Floyd had his cake and ate it too, controlling the dancers like employees while paying them like independent contractors, or in some cases barely paying them at all. Dancers would also have to pay house fees to perform, usually between $100 and $200 for each shift. So not only were they not receiving minimum wage, they were paying to work. That structure is not uncommon in the strip club industry. But combined with the tip withholding allegations, it describes a model where the house takes and the workers give. One dancer said she approached Mayweather about his failure to pay her for shifts she had worked earlier in the weekend, and was met with a slap in the face in front of other dancers and customers on the floor of the club. That allegation, physical assault in response to a wage complaint, sits at the extreme end of the claims attached to this lawsuit. Her attorneys wrote in the suit that she ran to the locker room in tears, and Mayweather followed after her, shouting she could not take a joke. Mayweather's attorney Felton Newell told The Athletic that the boxer vehemently denies the allegations and looks forward to the opportunity to prove in court that they are false. But denial aside, the lawsuit was not dismissed outright. The case was originally filed in federal court in March 2023, before being refiled in Clark County last week. Court records show the journey from federal court to state court kept the case alive and elevated its scope when it was refiled. What started as a wage dispute grew to include physical assault allegations and now sits in the same courthouse ecosystem as the Paige Moorhead paternity case. The through line between the class action lawsuit and Paige Moorhead's case is the environment that Girl Collection apparently fostered. Both sets of women came forward with accounts of being exploited or discarded by the same establishment. Both faced significant resistance from Floyd's side, and both cases are now unresolved, financially threatening, and publicly visible. According to Business Insider, Mayweather is at risk of losing the building that houses his famous Las Vegas strip club, over $52,000 in unpaid property taxes, the club itself, the source of so many of Floyd's legal headaches, is now potentially at risk of being taken away from him over less than $60,000 in unpaid taxes. For a man who used to wave around million-dollar gambling tickets on social media, $52,000 in unpaid property taxes sounds almost impossible to believe. But the documentation says otherwise. In the last 18 months, 2 of Mayweather's commercial properties have been foreclosed, and he is at risk of losing a Las Vegas building that houses his strip club girl collection. Over $52,000 in back property taxes and penalties. 2 foreclosures, 1 potential loss of the strip club, a $2 million lien from the child support case, a class action lawsuit from dancers. The institution Floyd built his post-boxing brand around has become the single most legally complicated structure in his portfolio. And it's not just the strip club. The financial unraveling stretches far beyond one building on Sammy Davis Jr. Drive. Part 4. The slow financial unraveling of Money Mayweather. The nickname was always a choice, but in 2026, it reads more like a taunt than a title. Floyd Mayweather spent the better part of 2 decades building a persona around wealth that was impossible to ignore. The stacks of cash in designer bags, the fleet of supercars, the private jets, the watches, the courtside appearances, where he'd theatrically pull out stacks and start counting them in front of Jay-Z and the cameras. The whole thing was a performance, and for a long time it worked. It made people believe that Floyd had so much money it was almost abstract. The rumors, fanned for years by a combination of jealousy and circumstantial evidence, are apparently true. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is broke, or at least close enough that the old narrative is no longer sustainable. He took out a $54 million loan at 9% interest. He has 2 commercial properties facing foreclosure and owes the government unpaid taxes on his Las Vegas strip club, a $54 million loan at 9% interest. Think about what that number means. The annual interest alone on that loan, before you touch the principal, is close to $5 million a year. That is the cost of borrowing, not spending. And what did Floyd put up as collateral? He used as collateral 14 residential homes, his Las Vegas strip club, and his jet. According to Hankey and Business Insider's review of public loan documents, 14 homes, the strip club, and the private jet. These are the trophies of a career that generated over $1 billion. They are now pledged against a debt. The jet that Floyd used to flaunt across Instagram, the one he'd post photos on with stacks of cash, is now collateral for a loan he took out because, according to the available documentation, he needed the money. He owes a Nigerian media firm $3 million, and a U.S. court has authorized repossession of some of his luxury cars to settle that debt. The cars he used to post about constantly. Black ones in one city, white ones in another. Courts are now authorizing their repossession. 2 condos that Mayweather owns at Trump Las Vegas residences were seized by Clark County for unpaid property taxes, then returned to Mayweather after he made a $21,000 payment. Seized over $21,000. This is a man whose single fight against Conor McGregor reportedly earned him $280 million, and he's having condos seized over $21,000 in unpaid property taxes. He insists he is creating generational wealth, but as of early 2026, several legal and financial disputes have come to light. That phrase, generational wealth, is one Floyd has leaned on publicly. But the paper trail of 2025 and 2026 tells a different story. Foreclosures, liens, unpaid taxes, car repossessions, a massive loan using his homes and strip club as collateral. Generational wealth doesn't usually come with this many creditors. Mayweather bets up to 7 figures per wager on team sports. And while he loves posting the winning tickets, the reality of sports gambling at that level is that even the most disciplined bettors bleed money over time. The wins get posted, the losses don't. That asymmetry, the social media performance of wealth versus the legal and financial paper trail of its depletion, is the story of Floyd Mayweather in 2026. The child support lien on his California property then is not arriving in a vacuum. It is landing on a portfolio that is already creaking under the weight of debts, lawsuits, and liens from multiple directions. Mayweather faces financial and legal issues on the regular, including a $3 million debt to a Nigerian media company, foreclosure risks on 2 properties, and potential loss of his girl collection strip club due to unpaid taxes. All of this is the context in which Floyd Mayweather is now staring down nearly $1 million in back child support for a child he tried to make disappear from his legal record. And the courts, at least for now, are not letting him do that. Part 5. The $340 million lawsuit and what it all means. There is one more piece of this story, the one that Floyd himself put into motion, and it is perhaps the most revealing of all. Mayweather says that he has suffered enormous financial harm and is missing at least $340 million from his reported $1.2 billion in career fight purses. In February 2026, Floyd Mayweather walked into a Los Angeles County courtroom, not as a defendant, but as a plaintiff, and filed a lawsuit that implicitly admitted something the world had been speculating about for years. The money is gone, or at least a staggering portion of it. The lawsuit, filed in February 2026, names Showtime Networks and Steven Espinoza, a longtime figure tied closely to Mayweather's most lucrative era in the sport. At the center of Mayweather's complaint is an allegation that Showtime and Espinoza helped his former manager, Al Heyman, misappropriate more than $340 million in fight earnings. The lawsuit claims a long-running fraud scheme tied to Mayweather's biggest events, alleging that funds from his mega fight deals were diverted without his knowledge. $340 million out of $1.2 billion in career earnings. According to Floyd, more than a quarter of everything he ever made was redirected without his knowledge. If that's true, it is one of the most breathtaking financial betrayals in sports history. But here's what makes the lawsuit significant even before a verdict. Floyd Mayweather filed it at all. The Pacquiao bout in May 2015 remains the highest-grossing pay-per-view event in boxing history, generating over $410 million in PPV revenue on an estimated 4.4 million buys. Floyd Mayweather was the centerpiece of the most financially dominant era in boxing history. He generated $1 billion in his own sport, and yet here he is in 2026, filing a lawsuit saying he was robbed of hundreds of millions, and separately, having California property placed under a $2 million lien because he failed to pay child support for a 4-year-old daughter. The complaint describes a 15-plus year elaborate scheme of financial fraud involving hidden accounts and unauthorized diversions. Showtime wired earnings to third-party accounts controlled by Heyman and Associates rather than directly to Mayweather. When news of the suit broke, legal experts, sports commentators, and even Mayweather's longtime rival 50 Cent weighed in. In an Instagram post, 50 Cent quipped, "You should have let me read the contracts." 50 Cent, a man who has had his own complicated financial history, including a public bankruptcy filing, was taking shots at Floyd over his contracts. That alone tells you how far the perception of money Mayweather has fallen. Pacquiao's camp says Mayweather took upfront money, signed for a pro fight, and is now trying to change the terms, putting the 2026 rematch in jeopardy. On top of everything else, even Floyd's planned comeback fights, the ones many observers believe he needs for the payday, are getting complicated. The Pacquiao rematch, the Mike Tyson exhibition, the fight in Greece. Floyd is chasing multiple paydays simultaneously, which is what you do when you need the money. Floyd Mayweather has signed on for yet another fight in 2026. This is a man who retired in 2017 with a perfect 50-0 record. He has now agreed to fight at least 3 times in a single calendar year, exhibition or not. That is not the behavior of someone who has $400 million sitting in accounts and nothing to prove. That is the behavior of someone who needs the cash flow. Now here's the honest verdict on all of this. The title of this video says Floyd Mayweather breaks silence after being ordered to pay $1 million in child support. And in the most fundamental sense, the court documents, the lien, the back child support, all of that is real and confirmed by TMZ Sports via actual court filings. But as of the time of this video, Floyd himself has not issued a public statement directly addressing the Paige Moorhead case. No Instagram post, no interview, no lawyer statement to the press. His silence on this specific matter has been total. What we do have is the paper trail. A 4-year-old girl named Price, a mother who worked at his club for 4 years, claims they were together for 8. A court that declared Floyd the father by default because he refused to show up. A back support bill of nearly $1 million, a lien on California property, and all of it landing on a man whose finances are, by every available indicator, in far more distress than the Instagram posts ever suggested. Floyd Mayweather built his legend on meticulous preparation, defensive mastery, and an unblemished record. He controlled every aspect of his fights, from training regimens to opponent selection to promotional strategy. Yet this lawsuit tells a different story, one where the fighter who dominated every opponent may have lost control of his own financial affairs to trusted advisors and business partners. And the child support case adds another layer. The fighter who controlled everything in the ring, who managed his own promotional company, who negotiated his own fights, couldn't manage a paternity case filed in his own city by a woman who worked in his own club for a child he has apparently known about since 2021. The silence Floyd has maintained on this isn't the silence of a man who is unbothered. It's the silence of a man who has no good answer. The court already spoke. The lien is already filed. The $2 million clock is already ticking. And Price Moorhead, 4 years old, living in Las Vegas, exists regardless of what her father says or doesn't say. The man who spent 2 decades telling the world he was the greatest earner in sports history now has courts telling him he hasn't paid his bills. That's not a narrative, that's a court order.